Good morning and welcome to the Landmarks Preservation Commission's public hearing and public meeting of March 25th, 2025. We'll begin by taking attendance, and I'll ask our General Counsel, Mark Silberman, to call the roll.
Chair Carroll,
Here.
Vice Chair Bland,
Here.
Commissioner Chapin,
Here.
Commissioner Chen,
Yeah.
Commissioner Chu, Commissioner Ginsburg,
Here.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Jefferson,
Here.
Commissioner Lutfi, Commissioner Master. He's here.
She's here. Okay. All right. Good morning and welcome again to our public hearing and public meeting of Tuesday, March 25th. The meeting is being held in our hearing room at 1 Center Street, and it is also being held via Zoom and live streamed on our YouTube channel. We are going to begin this morning with our Preservation Department public meeting agenda, which is for items that have already had a public hearing. And well, 2 items that have already had a public hearing and are back today with revisions in response to comments, and a 3rd item that was read into the record last week, which we'll be opening up the hearing for. And then we'll move to our public hearing agenda to review new applications for work on designated properties. And with that, I will turn it over to Corey Harala, our Director of Preservation.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. Start today's Preservation Department agenda with public meeting item number 1, LPC 25-06717, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan. Block 644, Lot 30, 817 Washington Street in the Greenwich Village Historic District. This is the Queen Anne style store and flats building designed by James W. Cole and built in 1886 to 87. The application is to modify masonry openings and install storefront infill. This was last presented at the public hearing of March 4th, 2025, and no action was taken at that time. The applicants will present revisions to the proposal in response to your comments after we open the proceedings.
We'll do that right now so that it's seamless. Vice Chair Bland, would you make a motion to open the proceedings?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Lutfi, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You may begin.
Well, I can always not talk. Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Sherida Paulson for the owners of this building at the corner of Gansevoort and Washington Street in the Meatpacking District, the Gansevoort Market District. And thank you for bringing us back quickly. And now I'm going to have a problem. Okay.
You click on the screen and then move the arrow keys. It should work.
Hmm.
Want to help her?
There we go. Thank you. First of all, this is the building. The frontage on Washington Street was at the storefront level was modified prior to designation, but with oversight of the commission with new storefront infill. This application is to continue that storefront infill design to the corner at Gansevoort and then up the Gansevoort frontage. In addition, we are proposing some signage that is not addressed by the rules and guidelines of the commission. And then we're proposing to alter the masonry openings on the Gansevoort side. And so what exists on the left is, and we're focusing on the Gansevoort side in this beginning, is a door and 3 openings whose windowsills are not appropriate for display, and a not terribly welcoming infill at the marquee and adjacent area. And what we are proposing, or what we proposed and was reviewed at the hearing, was the middle photograph, which showed dropping the sill of the westernmost 4 of the 4 windows, and then combining the other 3 openings into one display that went all the way down to the sidewalk, and the new infill, which is matching the infill that we're proposing for the corner for the new entrance and partial display. We've revised the design per comments received from one of the commissioners at the previous hearing to maintain the 2 flanking window openings, so the heads and detail brickwork are all maintained, dropping the sill down so that it allows for us to retain the corbelling below the sill, and then combining the door opening and the remaining window opening into one display window, and restoring the corbel at the sill at that opening. And just to quickly go through, again, the building is located at Washington and Gansevoort. And this is important because at the time the district was designated and created, Washington Street was a primary retail and commercial corridor in the district. It connected to 14th Street to a major store, which is no longer there. And the tenancy of Washington has diminished. And the space at the corner here has been vacant for 18 months. And in the meantime, what you can see on the right side of the district, let's see, here is the district bid, and the city created a very prominent pedestrian plaza, which culminates at Gansevoort. And Gansevoort has now become the primary high-end shopping street. And so the purpose of this is to create an opportunity for that bigger tenancy at this corner and proper entrances and display, which match a lot of the other retail along Gansevoort to the east. And so historically, this was a taller building, which had some commercial spaces and apartments above. This was originally 3 French flats buildings and now, and was converted in 1940-ish, 1940s to commercial. Just again, showing the taller one. And this is during the period of the reconstruction. So you can see the open windows and demolition going on at the ground floor. And the corner, which illustrates the cast iron that was inserted here. And the side street, which tries to show much of what's along this side. And what was there with the roll down gates, which are gone, and the awnings, which are no longer there. And just to briefly comment, the Victorian Society at the last hearing made note of the exposed conduit. That, of course, is all being removed and located inside as part of this. And details, this is the storefront that's being removed. And this is the side of the building with the greatest scope of work. There's a marquee. So here are the 4 openings in question with the high sills, the corbelling, the decorative brick between the openings, and lintels. And details of those elements. And the street elevation on Washington, street elevation on Washington, and Washington. This is what we're proposing, so it just continues what's already there. And on the Gansevoort side, this is the existing, so you can see in the marquee to the right, the infill and the openings, and what we presented last time, and what we are presenting today. So we've tried to maximize the amount of historic material. We'll be able to maintain the 2 lintels and do a small piece of infill in between them to match at the head of the window, continuing the brick detailing below the lintel in the brick wall sections, and then combining what's already altered, the door, with the window adjacent and dropping the sills down with the corbelling detail. Plan. And this shows one of the reasons for doing this is also to allow for this space to be divided. And the details. So maintaining the position of the glass and bulkheads with respect to the outer brick wall. And the detail of the corbelling as shown in existing and proposed on the right. And the majority of the signage conforms to the rules. The signage proposed on the lower left is for pin-mounted letters on the front face of the marquee that faces Washington Street for somebody driving by. And this shows some of the other buildings in the district where larger openings have been made from smaller openings in the brick walls. That one was extensive. And back to us. And this shows the pin-mounted letters on the face of the marquee facing Washington, and up close. And this shows what we previously proposed and what we are proposing today. Sorry for the little vehicle. Photoshop didn't do a good job. And what we previously proposed and what we are asking for approval of today. I think
Thank you. Any questions, commissioners? No? Okay. All right. I'll now note that Victorian Society of New York did send in a letter on the revised proposal, still recommending denial. So as we just saw this last week, so it should be fresh in everyone's mind. And you may recall that there were some comments that the 4 openings should just drop their sills. And then there were other comments, one in particular, that was to drop the sill on the eastern bay to match the western one, and then combine the 2 center ones. And then there were some other comments that were open to looking at other options besides dropping the 4 sills and some variation of that. And so the applicants are back today, dropping the sill of the eastern bay and then combining the 2 middle ones, keeping their outside line, their lintels, and inserting a piece in the middle. And all of them will have restored corbelling. And just to provide a little context on this particular district, and many of you might remember when we designated this district, we recognized that the history of this neighborhood was about change, and that this neighborhood started as a residential neighborhood and then became somewhat entertainment and then industrial and then commercial and then ultimately the meatpacking district. And so through these various waves of reuse, the buildings changed dramatically, and they were, cut down to 2 stories. They had additions, built back up. They had storefront changes. And I think that when we designated the district, we recognized that these changes that went along with these waves of adaptive use were part of the history. And so we have applied a little bit more flexibility in this historic district than we have in others to allow new uses to continue to thrive in these buildings. So that's just a little context that you can use to think about the project as we begin our discussion. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you like to start this one? I think you were the one who made this suggestion.
Yeah, I think in general, this is a good balance between having to modify to allow the commercial while keeping historic and preserving the feel of the building. So I find this appropriate. I also find the sign fine, so I can definitely support this.
Okay, Commissioner Chen.
Yeah, I agree. Given the constraint and on balance, and then the applicant did make modification that is better than last time.
Okay, Vice Chair Bland.
Agree too. I think retaining the interesting brick lintel detail is great.
Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, really, the only problem I had with it the first time was this side and trying to preserve as much of that corbelling. And I think this is a good solution that has, done what we asked for.
Okay. Commissioner Lutfi.
I agree. It's really well scaled to the building. It's really harmonious with what's going on above. It works in terms of what the retail looks like around it as it hits the street. And I think they did a great job, from a materiality and style standpoint with the lintels and the sills. And I think the signage is perfect.
Commissioner Master,
Agreed, it's appropriate.
Commissioner Jeff.
Agreed, appropriate.
Commissioner Goldblum, I'm not sure you saw enough. Okay, great. So I think we can otherwise make a motion to approve.
With regards to LPC 25-06717, 817 Washington Street, Greenwich Village Historic District. A Queen Anne style store and flats building designed by James W. Cole and built in 1886-87. Application is to modify masonry openings and install storefront infill. I note that the building style, scale, material, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Gavensford Market Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the selective enlargement of masonry openings, including removing small sections of the masonry band chorus and an obsolete lintel and brackets at a sealed cellar opening, will not detract from the overall unity or character of the facade, that the enlarged openings will be well scaled to the facade and compatible with the design of the building, which features large storefront openings, that the proposed cast stone lintels and sills will closely match the historic brownstone in terms of color, texture, and detail, that the historic corbelled brickwork beneath the sills will be replicated beneath each of the display windows, that the predominance of glazing and simple modern design of the storefront infill will recall open loading bays historically found within the historic district, and that the proposed storefront infill will be typical in terms of material and finish and consistent in design and detail with the existing storefront to remain at the building, thereby unifying the building's base, and the signage at the edge of the marquee will be modest in size, typical in terms of material and finish, and compatible with the character of the historic district in terms of its placement.
Right, Commissioner Chen, would you second that motion?
Second.
Mark?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Bland,
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi,
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
9 in favor and none opposed. The motion passes.
That's approved. Thank you. Yes, that's right. Well, we're going to be here. This was your. I know. But I think way back when, and I also think you were on the commission when we designated the Gainsborough Market Historic District as well. So very familiar with it. Oh. All right, thank you.
Now move to the next item. It's public meeting item number 2, LPC 25-03477, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 592, Lot 55, 156 Waverly Place in the Greenwich Village Historic District. This is a Greek Revival style townhouse built in 1839, and the application is to construct a rooftop addition, modify and reconstruct the rear facade, excavate the cellar and rear yard, place windows, and install a stoop gate. This was last presented at the public hearing of January 28, 2025. No action was taken at that time. The applicants will present revisions to the proposal after we open the proceedings.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Chapin, would you make a motion to open the proceedings?
So moved.
Thank you. And Commissioner Master, would you second that motion?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? You may begin.
Good morning, Commissioners. Anu Kandel, Preservation Staff. The subject property is located on the south side of Waverly Place between Grove Street and 6th Avenue in the Greenwich Village Historic District. This item was initially presented at the January 28th public hearing. The proposed work included installing a stoop gate, replacing windows, constructing a rooftop addition, modifying and reconstructing the rear facade, and excavating the cellar and rear yard. The Commissioners did not object to the excavation scope, but did express specific comments and concerns regarding the remaining scope. No action was taken at that time. Starting at the front facade, the Commissioners did not object to the presence of a stoop gate, but expressed concerns regarding the design and height. In response to these comments, the historic railings and newel posts will now be restored and the gate redesigned to be shorter and match the reintroduced ironwork. Additionally, the windows were revised to a lighter finish, which is now being reviewed at staff level. Moving to the roof, the commissioners did not object to the construction of a rooftop addition, but expressed concerns about visibility as well as the glass railings, as well as expressed objections to the glass railing, sorry. In response to these comments, the addition has been modified to address visibility, specifically sloping the roof away from the Waverly Place facade. Additionally, the glass railings have been revised to cable railings. At the rear facade, some of the commissioners objected to modifying the upper floor windows. In response to these comments, the fourth floor window openings will be retained. The third floor is still proposed to be modified as previously presented. Additionally, the proposal to reconstruct the rear facade at these upper floors remains as. And the applicants are here to present the changes and answer any questions after we open the proceedings.
Okay, great. And which I've already done, so you may go ahead and speak.
Hi, John Gordon and Bill Sook with Sook Design Studio. So we could start with the stoop gate. We were asked to change it as mentioned, but we found historic photos that were better quality and showed the pedestals that existed originally. So we're restoring that, and all of the railings on the sides of the stoop and the front were mismatched from the historic railings that exist on the areaway. So we decided to replicate to match that and be consistent with that historic photo we found. And there's 2 or 3 other houses on the road that do have these pedestals on their stoop still. So we feel like it's a very appropriate change to the stoop. So this is the higher resolution historic photo we found, and you can see the existing condition with very mismatched railings, and then the proposal on the far right. Moving to the rear facade, we did explore. We talked about last time that the base of the rear facade at the terrace, the existing terrace, is covered with tar, but we did some probing and found it's actually like a layer of tar on top of a layer of parging on top of another layer of tar, and did a bit of probing here to expose and see what the conditions were. And we feel that the brickwork at this area has just been chewed up by all these interventions in the past to try to waterproof.
That any sort of removal of that coating. And that any further removal of those coatings would keep damaging the bricks like you're seeing in those samples down there on the lower right.
And as well, we would like to point out that the sills here and the sills of the windows above are all like replacement sills made of precast concrete. You can see in these photos, sort of like a bullnose shape. So currently, we're proposing to maintain the masonry openings of the top rear floor to the 3 openings, while still keeping the proposal to make a wide opening at the terrace. And that's comparing what we were here in January proposing versus now. So, and rendering the rear facade and comparing the old rendering, the new rendering, plans. And then as mentioned, the bulkhead has been revised for less visibility. We'll get into the visibility here in a second. So directly across the street, no real change there. It wasn't very visible. Here you could see the comparison from what we're calling view B, close to the end of the dispensary. You can see a slight bit, but the new mock-up is there on the top photos, and then the rendered and the blow-up on the bottom there. And then this is comparing the rendering we proposed in January versus today's rendering. You can see the reduced visibility with that sloped roof. And then further back, just comparing the mock-up photo to the current mock-up, it's much less visibility. View C is further back when you get to the across the street from where we were in the previous view, so larger vantage point. You can see the change in the visibility there. And then comparing the old rendering from that spot to the new rendering, reducing the visibility quite a bit. And then the photo comparison from that spot of the mock-up to the new mock-up, old mock-up to new mock-up. And then there's no visibility really here from this angle. And then you could see these are the photos of the mock-up when you're standing on the roof, so you can see like the shape of it comparing to what we've modeled on the old mock-up. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions, commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Jefferson.
I have one architectural question. In the rear facade, the front facade, the window frames are white. In the back facade, you made them black. And then you have the lintels that are white. And I'm just curious, why the change? You didn't hear me? Oh,
It was hard to hear, sorry.
The question is that on the front facade, I know last time you proposed a black color and the commissioners all mostly felt that a white color would be more appropriate because of the cornice and the other details. And so the question is, on the back, you're proposing a black window system with white lintels, and what was the thought behind that?
I think the lintels were intended to be like a masonry type material over the openings. So it's like appropriate with the brick.
So you're asking about it?
Lintel? You're
no,
talking about
can you
lintels.
hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, the question is, the window frames in the back are painted black
Mm-hmm.
and your lintels are white. And I'm just asking why, and the front frames are white. So
Right, so I
why
think that the
change?
sills and lintels shouldn't be really, portrayed, it shouldn't be really viewed as white. I think it would be like a stone color, like a, kind of like a precast stone or a limestone type of color to go with the brick. The color of the mullions and the window frames you're talking about, I mean, I think there's enough of a difference between the rear facade and the front facade being something more contextual with the street frontage. And I mean, we like it, but it was our
It's just,
owner request too.
it's
So,
just, okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and just to follow up on that, the lintels and sills on the top floor windows will now be the historic ones, right? Because you're keeping those windows?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, go ahead. Commissioner.
Did the staff visit the site and look at the brick damage to verify if the brick really could not be salvaged?
I mean, I think the staff visited the site, at least for the mock-up, if not for other reasons. And I think you can see in some of the photos that, there is the tar coating at the lower 2 feet of that second from the top floor, but otherwise it's not coated. Maybe it was in the past, but it doesn't have the same issues. So I think our position still is that it hasn't been demonstrated that that brickwork couldn't be either kept in place and then have the sills and lintels changed out, or that it would be built that it could be.
Okay.
Can you just explain the extent of the reconstruction? I know you talked about the tar and the parging at the lower level where you're combining the window openings. Are you still proposing to replace the entire upper floors, or just, you're talking about just the area where the combined window opening is?
Yeah, we were planning to rebuild the whole thing. And also since we were here last, the DOB, I guess, visited the neighbor's property and found some issues at the back where the terrace transitions to the upper stories, and there's cracks, and they issued a violation for repairing that area. So we feel like it needs to be rebuilt because all these repairs are needed.
So there's a DOB violation for some cracks on your
Yeah,
building.
on the back, yeah. We just got it like a week or two ago.
Okay. Other questions? Yeah, Commissioner Goldblum, followed by Commissioner Master.
I'm trying to understand exactly why the rear yard, roof bulkhead is as tall as it appears to be 12 feet above the new roof height. and it looks like it's mostly double height space. Is there a reason why that weird thing is installed to it?
The main logic is you come up the staircase and then you come out the door, so you need height clearance at that area. And we just kept it as one roof for the whole thing.
So is the clearance there like 9 feet above, you have a 12? Yeah, it's 12 feet from roof level to roof of bulkhead. So is that like an 11-foot clearance on?
No, it's definitely not 11. I think we had it like,
So it says bulkhead, I'm sorry, bulkhead is 49.9 and so it's 10 feet. So yeah, we're being like a 9-foot clearance on. Is that the idea?
I mean, the roof structure over the top on any of the roof structures we're adding they're nearly 2 feet thick because we're doing lots of insulation and a foot of structure, and so there's a lot of layers to it. So it definitely comes down quite a bit.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Master.
Yeah, can you speak to the front stoop gate? I think that you had said that you were trying to replicate the historic front gate. Is that true? What was your inspiration?
Go back to that slide here. So the existing what we see today, existing gate and the railings on the side of the stoop are not matching what's on the front of the areaway and don't match the historic photo. We feel the historic photo demonstrates that what's in front of the areaway was the historic. It's still there now, and we'd like to use that as our inspiration for the entire stoop. So making the gate in that character as well, but we're adding these pedestals back, and the side railings at the stoop itself will be matching that style of railing. So it's more of like a restoration to match the historic pattern.
Okay, any other questions? All right, and I'll note that we did receive a letter in advance, which was shared with the commissioners from Village Preservation. Still noting concern about the visibility of the rooftop addition and the excavation and other issues. So we'll begin our discussion, and as we know, there are three components, three sort of areas of work. The stoop, where there's a recreation of the stoop cheek walls and pedestals for the ironwork, and a stoop gate that is lowered, and the rooftop addition, which has been lowered and sloped and is much less visible from those long distance views. And then at the rear facade, the proposal includes reconstructing the top 2 floors and the combined window opening on 1 floor below. We had asked them, most commissioners asked them to retain the top floor window sizes, which they are doing. And we'll begin our discussion. Commissioner Goldblum, would you like
Sure.
to start?
Thanks. Okay, front stoop. I think the recreation of those pedestals is fantastic, and I think that in an interesting way, it makes a better case for the stoop gates than most other kind of typical situations. And this is certainly within the geographic area where we've seen the stoop gate problem as being rather severe. So I can accept the stoop gates. They can work with the staff if there are details to hash out about the patterns. I think that the rooftop addition is much better. I think the visibility is way better. I think the sloping of the front is a good idea and makes it more in keeping with visible rooftop accretions in the village. However, I think that the railing should be set back on the front. The railing does constitute a significant visible element. And if that roof is basically, AC access for the most part, I see no reason why they couldn't move that back a little bit to reduce visibility, and that could be done with staff. I think in terms of the rear facade, as Corey said, I think that the applicant should work with the staff on determining whether or not the brick is in fact salvageable. If it is, certainly we should salvage it. If it's not, then I think it's okay to rebuild it. I think that the rooftop addition, they should work with staff to make sure that the height of it is no taller than it needs to be, you know, whatever code would require for a rooftop bulkhead. You know, and maybe they could slope it towards the back. It's just proportionally a little bit kind of tall and ungainly relative to the rear facade. I do note that the block has bulkheads on townhouses. They don't seem to be full width bulkheads. But there is some pattern of rooftop accretion. So I think it is okay to put a rooftop addition here, but I just think that they should do what they can to make it as modest and reasonable as possible.
Thank you, Commissioner Ginsburg.
I agree with Commissioner Goldblum's comments, and I would add 2 comments. With the rooftop bulkhead, the clear height should be no more than 8 feet, which is a little more than code, but I can understand code, which is 7 feet, would be a little tight for that. So that would be my comment there. And with the stoop gate, I agree, it's much better, but since there wasn't a gate to begin with, I'd consider a much simpler gate design. So it clearly is not the recreation, but it's clearly something added or so on. But with those 2 comments, I agree with Commissioner Goldblum, and I think these can be worked out with staff.
Commissioner Chen.
It's the same here, but I think is they need to work with the staff about the existing brick condition. It may be as bad as what the applicant said it is, but before it gets destroyed and lost, I think it will be best to verify.
Vice Chair Bland.
Very astute observers have preceded me. I don't think I have anything more to add, and I would agree with what they've said.
All right, Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, I think the rooftop addition has been very much improved, and I'm fine with that. I think that the rear is also, you know, I can improve that with the upper windows changed, but I also think that they ought to work, you know, they need to work with the staff and see if there's historic material that should be retained and what the condition is, because there's an uncertainty about that. So that just needs to be clarified. And, you know, if see whether they should proceed and as they're intending to now, or whether they really need to preserve more of the historic material. And on the stoop gate, I think that it's fine. They're restoring the stoop in a nice way and general. And I just think that the stoop gate, as others, needs really to be just very simple because it calls too much attention to itself. But the rest, you know, the rest of the restoration is fine, but the gate itself should be very simple.
Okay.
Working with the staff.
Thank you, Commissioner Lutfi.
I agree with most of what's been said here. I do want to on the front say, I think the gate and the railing are fine. I think they work well together, and you know, depending upon what everyone feels in terms of working with staff, I think that's what should be done, but otherwise I'm okay with it. I think the slope back, it works. I think on the top of the roof, and I think they've done a good job from a visibility standpoint, materiality standpoint. I think Michael's comments about the rear make a lot of sense, and the comments about the materials, working with staff, the fabric of the rear makes a lot of sense.
Commissioner Master.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Goldblum's comments. I also am fine with the stoop gate, as they said they've tried to recreate the historic gate that was there. But other than that, yeah, I agree with everything Commissioner Goldblum said.
And Commissioner Jefferson.
Yeah, I agree with my fellow commissioners, but there are 2 items that I commend the architects for. One is that entry, the entry at the lower level. By just changing the vertical elevation of that, they've made it really work well. And I love the greenhouse effect on the roof. Just being inside that space would be just wonderful, I think.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Bland, did you have an opinion on the gate?
I was okay with the gate, the way it is been presented.
Okay, So I think we actually have enough to support the stoop gate, but we'll make a motion to approve it with the condition that they work with the staff to determine whether reconstruction is necessary and also to ensure that the rooftop addition is no more than 8 feet and the railing is set back to minimize visibility, and that the sort of the height is also studied at the rear of the rooftop addition.
So leave off any comment about the gate per se.
We're good
Got
with the
it.
gate.
Okay, regarding 156 Waverly Place, Greenwich Village Historic District, the application is to construct a rooftop addition, modify and reconstruct the rear facade, excavate the cellar and rear yard, replace windows, and install a stoop gate. I note that the building's style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Greenwich Village Historic District. I recommend approval with modifications, finding that the proposed work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features. The placement of the rooftop addition set back from the front and rear facades will retain a sense of the building's original scale and massing. That the proposed rooftop addition and mechanical equipment will not be seen over the front facade from directly across the street and will only be visible obliquely from the north from a distance where the scale and massing of the addition will not overwhelm the building. That the proposed chimney extension will be seen over the front facade from directly across the street, and that the neutral finish will help it recede from view. That the materiality of the rooftop addition featuring steel and glass window wall, standing seam zinc panels is in keeping with the treatment of rooftop additions and other accretions found throughout this historic district. And that the gray color of the metal panels will help the addition recede from view. That the cable railings at the front of the roof and on top of the addition will be minimally visible over the Waverly Place facade in long views from the north. That the rear facade is not visible from any public thoroughfare and is not part of an intact row. Therefore, the modifications to the window openings of the third floor will not interrupt an intact pattern of top floors or detract from the special character of the building or the historic district. That the metal balconies will be of modest scale and open quality. That of the installation will not overwhelm the rear facade. That the rear facade will be redesigned to a unified composition and feature materials, proportions, and fenestration, which will be in keeping with the residential character of the building and other buildings in the district. I lost my place there for a minute. 1 second. Other buildings in the block. That the proposed excavation of the cellar and rear yard will not extend to the rear lot line and will provide an area for substantial plantings in the rear yard. That the proposed excavation will be completed in compliance with the DOB regulations under supervision of a licensed professional engineer to protect the building's facades and those of the adjacent buildings. That the building's location between busy commercial thoroughfares has led to trespassing issues and safety concerns. That the gate is attached to non-historic ironwork at the stoop and is easily reversible, and that the streetscape features a variety of areaway and gate entrance conditions, including other gates and fences. Therefore, the presence of a stoop gate will not diminish the relationship of the building to other buildings on the block or the relationship of the stoop to the sidewalk. However, I recommend that the applicant work with the staff to examine the height of the rooftop addition to ensure that it is no more than 8 foot high, clear on the interior, to set the railing of the rooftop addition back from the front facade to reduce visibility to the extent that is possible, and to explore with the staff the viability of the rear facade brick masonry, and to take all efforts to retain it if at all possible, as per the staff's recommendations.
Okay, Commissioner Jefferson, would you second that motion?
So second.
Thank you. Mark?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Bland,
All right.
Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi,
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
With 9 in favor and none opposed, the motion passes.
All right, please continue to work with the staff. We'll move to the next item.
Right, the next item is public meeting item number 3, LPC 24-08751, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, block 1144, lot 105, 167 West 72nd Street in the Upper West Side, Central Park West Historic District. This is a store and apartment building originally built as a row house in 1883 to 84 and modified in 1909 by E. Wilbur. The application is to legalize the replacement of windows installed without LPC permits. We read this into the record at a public hearing of March 11th. 2025. So this will be presented today for the first time. And the applicant will go through the proposal after we open the hearing.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Lutfi, would you make a motion to open the hearing? Thank you. Commissioner Jefferson, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is open.
Sorry, I missed. How do I? Yeah.
You can just use the keys to
Is the arrow? Ah, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Alessandra Nehudil, and I'm here as the new owner and representative of 167 West 72nd Street. And I am here to request and propose that the current double hung 1/1 windows at 167 be legalized for the remainder of their natural life. This is the location on the Upper West Side. This is the Landmark West preservation designation. Sorry. Whoops. Okay. Missed a slide, but that's okay. And this is the Landmark West description. And here are some historical images. We have the tax photo from the 1940s. And 167 West 72nd Street was originally constructed as neo-Grec, and it has been refaced a number of times. The current style of 167 West 72nd Street is not clearly identified in the Upper West Side Central Park West designation report, though preservationists today have approximated its architecture to be close to 20th century commercial and neo-federal. However, if you look up the property on Landmark's preservation website, you will see that it still is categorized as neo-Grec, which is important to me because 1/1 windows are appropriate for neo-Grec architecture and designations. From the designation photo, it is apparent that the 5th floor, is this the right window? Here we go. From the designation photo, it's apparent that the 5th floor has had double hung windows since at least 1990, the top floor. And if anyone is familiar with, oh no. Oh, this is my old, that's why. I had sent a new, that's okay. Okay, well, I'll just let you know that I have a photo from 2008 with an image. The neighbor was Flick's Video. It was where you'll see next to the Cohen side to the west, that gold sign, it used to say Flick's Video, and Flick's went out of business in 2008. And in the picture with Flick's, you'll see that the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors had double hung windows. So the building has had double hung 1/1 windows since at least 2008, because that's when Flick's went out of business for credit card fraud. And this is, so these are the windows as they currently are. And this is a close-up of the current windows that we have. And on to the neighborhood. We believe that given the architectural variety in the surrounding neighborhood, legalizing the current 1/1 double hung windows is appropriate for the streetscape. As you can see from the photos of neighboring properties in images 10 through 16, 167 is not part of a row, and the block has a varied spectrum of window configurations and styles. To the west of us is Beaux-Arts. To the east, that's the Beaux-Arts. To the east is Neo-Grec, neither of which have architectural requirements for 9/1 windows. Further east is Art Deco, another Neo-Grec, and a modern. And south of us are Neo-Renaissance and Romanesque Revival, neither of which require 9/1 windows. Also in the immediate vicinity are Art Deco and Modern, whose windows are conditional. And I was not able to get a consensus on Flemish, which is also nearby. So this is the neighborhood. And, oh no, is there a way to get my real presentation? Well, sort of. Okay. All right, here we go. I have a much more impressive photo I wanted to end with, but you can use your imagination of what this tree looks like when it's in full bloom. And a little math on the neighborhood, out of 56 buildings on the block, only 6 are classified by Landmark as early 20th century commercial, and none are classified as neo-federal, which are the designations that Landmark would suggest are closest to what our building is currently. And that means that only 10% of the buildings in this area have designations to require 9/1 windows. And to this end, I propose that there is no architectural conformity on the block that is diminished by 167 not currently having 9/1 windows. And not only would 167 not be the odd man out, but it would actually be in good company if it had its current 1/1 windows legalized for the remainder of their natural life. So with this in mind, I hope that you will vote to legalize our current double hung 1/1 windows. And also, this gorgeous tree is in bloom 8 months out of the year and reaches all the way to the top floor. So this is the typical view of our property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions? Any questions? It's the 3 floors above the storefront. Yeah. Commissioner Ginsburg?
So I'm just confirming, you were not the owner when those
No.
windows were
No,
installed?
I became the owner two summers ago when the owner passed away.
And no one has any understanding of why they were done without going to the commission?
She was 90. No, I do
Right.
not know. She was 93.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Lutfi?
So when the windows were installed, the brick molds were removed and metal panning was put in? Is that correct?
Aluminum capping was put on top. Nothing was removed, but it was encased.
Have you explored, I'm sure the staff talked to you about removing the panning and exposing the brick mold?
It's not without a great financial burden that I am unable to take on at this time. I guess I could mention, well, I'll see if there's any other questions.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. You want to go ahead?
I can't, I can't afford to keep this building. There was a very large mortgage also taken out by the family member who put in these windows. And so I have to sell the building to pay the mortgage. The new owner has a lot more money than I do. And in a very short period of time, these windows will be done with their natural life. And she would be able to adhere to these regulations in a way that I currently cannot afford to. And so my request really is for a short-term legalization so that I can honor the contract. There's a stipulation that I can clear the violations in the next 60 days, and they will go ahead with the sale, with the purchase. And so that's my hope today.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move to public testimony and then we'll come back. And is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on this item? Noting that there isn't, I'll turn it over to Stephen to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you. Anyone joining us via Zoom, please use the raise hand function. I see our first speaker is Christina Conroy. Christina, I'll be promoting you to panelist, after which we ask you to unmute yourself, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak.
The host, it says I can't start because the host has stopped it, my video.
Yeah, no, we can see you, but let me, you can speak. I'll check on the video.
Yeah, we can hear you. So
Okay.
go ahead.
All righty. Okay. So good morning, commissioners. I'm Christina Conroy for the Victorian Society, New York. Now, at the last hearing, the commission saw the positive effects of recent restoration of multi-casement windows at Harlem River houses and the importance of retaining historic window configurations and details is a lesson that should be applied to this application, whether with its owner or whoever. Historic tax photos of 167 West 72nd Street show that the building had 9/9 wood windows on the upper floors. These windows almost surely date from the 1909 alteration that gave the house the neo-federal style facade. Now, 9/1 windows are stylistically correct for a neo-federal row house and were intentionally part of the redesign. We therefore recommend that the illegal windows be replaced with 9/1 wood sash that match the 1909 windows and support the historic style of the building. Now, in investigating the history of commission activity concerning this building, we were extremely disappointed to discover that notice of violation 060651 issued for the, quote, replacement of windows at the front facade without permits, unquote, was dated June 26th, 2006. It has been outstanding for 19 years. We were just as disturbed to see that 4 other notices of violation issued against this property since 2010 are still in effect. Also, since 2016, staff has deactivated or withdrawn 6 applications. Now, this seems to indicate a lack of responsiveness by the owner, whoever that owner had been. Now, for decades, the commission has worked with owners and preservation advocates to restore West 72nd Street to a retail and residential street befitting its historic neighborhood. Public funds have improved the streetscape to support the district's character. Now, the owner, whoever that owner will be, should get on board to contribute to this architectural and commercial revitalization. Now, commissioners, these windows are inappropriate in terms of style and materials. As the building has many other violations not being addressed in this application, we think the owners should be required to return with a fully detailed presentation for the installation of multi-light painted wood windows. The application for legalization should be denied. Thank you, commissioners.
Do I respond?
Okay, I see our next speaker is Megan from Landmark West. Megan, I'll be promoting you to panelist, after which we ask you to unmute yourself and state your name for the record. And I'll also note that the issue we were having earlier of speakers video not operating, I believe has been resolved.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Fitzpatrick speaking on behalf of Landmark West. When our Certificate of Appropriateness Committee saw this application last summer, we appreciated that the applicant was willing to remediate the violation placed on this building for removing windows without permits. We are disappointed, however, to see a changed proposal seeking to legalize inappropriate 1/1 windows instead. Our committee believes historic fenestration is key to the unique character of a landmark building. Not only is its former appearance with 9/1 windows well documented, but this much altered building on this eclectic street in particular would benefit from the restoration of this historic configuration. The Landmark West Certificate of Appropriateness Committee recommends the applicant or future owner reinstall 9/1 windows. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else wishing to speak, please use the raise hand function. All right, seeing none, I'll return it to you, Chair Carroll.
Very much. Okay, if you'd like to respond to any comments. you can
Sir,
use it.
could I just address
yes,
the
sorry,
violation
John.
testimony? Yeah, the Victorian Society is correct. There were a half dozen violations issued to the prior owners of this building over the past 25 years. However, 4 of those violations have been rescinded over the years because the conditions were corrected. And that leaves 2 open violations. One is for the windows before you today, and the other one was for a sign. The current owner has gotten a permit to address that sign violation. So out of those 6 violations, 4 have been rescinded and 2 are in the process of being addressed.
Commissioner Lutfi.
The ones that still exist, how far back do they date?
This window violation is quite old, as was pointed out. We did issue a warning letter, and then we also issued a violation returnable to oath. But in some cases, if there's an elderly owner or there are financial concerns, they'll get a fine imposed by a judge, and the illegal condition won't be addressed. And I think that's what happened in this case with the prior ownership.
So we're considering a violation that's, how old is this violation?
I think it is 19 years old. The window violation is very old. As the applicant showed, those windows have been in place for quite some time.
All right, and I think we have also, that we received a community board resolution.
Yes, Manhattan Community Board 7 recommends approval.
Okay. Yeah, let's have the applicant respond to the testimony and then we'll go back to questions. So please go ahead.
I was going to mention the sign. It's being replaced tomorrow. We were working on that for the last year. Once I was able to start taking charge of the building, as well as working with Landmarks for the past year, trying to find different solutions that would settle this violation that were something that I could afford. And in the meantime, in case it matters, everything went to the roof and things that were actually the roof, the boiler, electric, things like that, that the tenants needed. And so that's where I am, and that's why the proposal changed. I guess I do have a personal note that I may as well read. I understand that it is Landmark's mission to protect the integrity of New York City's historic architecture. It's a role I not only respect, but also deeply appreciate, even personally. When I look back at photos of this building, where my great aunt worked with my grandfather, with their father's namesake, Joseph Hidalgo and Sons Real Estate, their office was on the 2nd floor. And when I was looking out those same gorgeous windows that you can see in this picture, while I was trying to piece together a solution for my family, I largely have Landmarks to thank for the fact that all of the pictures that I have today match what they looked like back then, that the huge windows remained, and that this building looks exactly as it did the day that my great aunt bought it. And I appreciate that it will look exactly the same on the day that I sell it, and that I'll be able to walk by someday and it will look the same as it always has. To know that even though my family may have lost the building itself will not be lost. It will live on with all of its history that we will be just one small part of. And if Landmarks is ever personal, if it is ever a matter of people and personhood over property, I hope that this will be the day for that kind of consideration, because I am not a private investor looking to protect my profits, and I am not a real estate mogul trying to alter the face of the historic Upper West Side. I am simply a 3rd-generation New Yorker who is trying to dismantle her family's legacy with as much grace and dignity as I can manage, who is asking for what will amount to a short-lived pardon in the long and well-preserved history of this building and this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Commissioner Ginsburg.
So this is more for council, because this is a tricky situation. And from what I understand, is there a way we can do a short-term waiver or removal of the violation so this woman can sell the building and then require the new owner to install appropriate windows?
Gina, even I do this sometimes. We could approve their retention for a period of years with the understanding that they need to be replaced after that time with appropriate. I mean, we should point out that there's still the open question of whether 1/1 are appropriate for the building as it is.
Right.
So leaving that aside, if it's decided they're not, then the commission could say, you need to replace, we understand there's an issue, so we need to replace them for within the next, X number of years. And you can pick what that is, and there can be an escrow set up so that a portion, you can work with your seller, your purchaser for that. I don't know if that will satisfy your purchaser's desire for the violation to be cured, but that is an option for the commission to do that.
Right,
Thank
and-
you.
Which we've
But
done in the past.
normally when we do that, it's a denial with a long compliance date, right?
Correct.
So that
Correct.
is something that we'd have to see would be, if that would be
Correct, correct.
satisfactory. Contract,
That would eliminate the violation.
no.
No, the violation remains, but
Violation would remain.
Sell the property.
Right.
well,
So if we approved them as 1/1,
Mhm.
but only for a limited period of time, how does that work?
well, that's an odd situation because we'd be finding them appropriate for a period of time, which is, I think, that's an odd thing.
That's a new one.
Yeah. So I think that's a bad precedent, and I think the notion that somehow, I mean, I think this is one of those issues that the applicant would have to work out with their purchaser about, because ultimately the purchaser is going to need to fix these windows, and so that's an issue for them to work out.
Won't be a purchaser if we don't approve it.
Well, let's not assume that we know exactly what's in the purchaser's mind or what the story is, and that's the reality.
Yeah, we do that all the time.
All the time.
At any given time, there are about 200 or 300 escrow accounts set up. Lily Fan, our enforcement director, and that's usually because a sale is happening. The seller acknowledges responsibility for the illegal condition. There's no time to address the violation before the sale, the closing. So funds are put into escrow to pay for the cost of addressing that violation, and then the closing can go forward. So we do that on a regular basis.
So,
But if one has the funds to put into escrow,
Yes.
right? Commissioner Lutfi?
but then would we maybe want to take no action and have the applicant work out these details with the buyer? And as part of the, as part of the transaction, the funds that the seller receives would go into an account, and those funds would be used for the purpose.
So I think what we should do, first of all, we should close the hearing if there are no other questions for the applicant. And then I think we should have our discussion. And I think the applicant has made a case for appropriateness that we should consider and discuss. And that is that the building was originally built in 1883 as a neo-Grec style building. And that at that time, it likely had 1/1 windows, which is typical of the neo-Grec style. The building was altered in the early 20th century, like so many buildings along 72nd Street when it became more commercial, with the two-story storefront, and that is likely when a multi-light configuration went in. The applicant, and I would note that actually at the time of designation, the building was painted white and had a very different appearance than it does today. And the applicant has made an argument that the 1/1 in this case it blends harmoniously with the variety within this streetscape, which features window types of both 1/1 double hung as well as some multi-light windows, and that given the variety of styles and window types that the 1/1 is appropriate in this particular instance. So I think that's an argument that we should discuss and consider first. And if I think there's different outcomes, right? One could find that a 1/1 configuration is appropriate within this streetscape and on this building, but and then one could find that the 1/1 configuration is appropriate, but the details are not. And that's another thing to discuss with the panning. And then one could find that that the 1/1 configuration is not appropriate and that they should return to a multi-light configuration that relates to the time the storefront was added and the facade changed. So I think we need to discuss all of those options. If we are at a place where we find that we do not have support for the existing windows, then I think we can discuss remedial measures like taking an action to deny it with a long compliance date, or taking no action. I think we can give the applicant the opportunity to let, Bernadette and Corey know on the side if one is more suitable than the other for their proceedings. Yeah, So let's make a motion to close the hearing. Commissioner Jefferson, would you make a motion to close the hearing? Thank you. Commissioner Goldblum, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Yes, Commissioner Bland. These windows, I think she found photos that date back to the, well, we know at the time of designation, which was 1989 or I think it was 1989 or 91. We know that 1/1 existed at the third and fourth floors. So there were already at the time of designation, there were, well,
Said they're on their way out.
yeah. And then, so the only multi-light windows at the time of designation were right above the storefront. And then we know that in 2008 also, there were 1/1 windows from a photo documentation. And it seems our warning letter was issued originally in 2006. So that's another point, is that even at the time of designation, there were 2 of the floors had 1/1. So let's begin a discussion around that. Commissioner Chapin, would you like to start?
Okay. I personally feel that these 1/1s are not inappropriate. That, you see this fairly commonly and in the district in the Upper West Side. And particularly one of the things I'm thinking about is, with the commercial downstairs, with retail downstairs, if it were a townhouse still intact or something, I might feel differently. But I think this would be very typical for something where you have the retail downstairs like this, so on the lower floors. So I could approve that. I would like to see the brick molds profiles and details restored eventually, so we can talk about that later. But as far as the 1/1, I'm okay with that.
All right, Vice Chair Bland.
I'm in the same mode. And I think I can approve it without changing the brick mold now, knowing that these windows are going to be replaced in the near future anyway, and then we can get a second crack at it perhaps at that point.
Commissioner Chen.
I'm in agreement with Vice Chair Bland.
Okay. Commissioner Ginsburg.
I can agree with Vice Chair Bland.
Okay. Commissioner Goldblum.
Me too. The standard we usually use for looking at buildings that have 1/1 replacement windows is the building decoratively rich enough to take it? And I think in this case, that is the case. I think that this building is sufficiently historically rich to accept the 1/1s. And I think we just have to work with the council to make sure that the language reflects the fact that when windows come up for what will probably be a staff level replacement, that the brick molds are changed.
Commissioner Jefferson.
I can accept the context argument. So I can say 1/1 is fine.
Commissioner Master.
Yeah, I can approve the presentation as presented. I can find this appropriate.
And Commissioner Lutfi.
I feel like I can approve this as a temporary measure, and I do think the language is very important that we come up with. And, I'm okay with the 1/1s, period. I mean, it does seem to fit into a very varied streetscape. We do make these kinds of approvals, as Commissioner Chapin had said, and that is not the issue. I mean, the issue for me is it's a very long-standing violation. Over time, you can forget about these things. We, as an entity, can sort of be a little more dismissive of it, and I don't think it's a great idea. And the devil is always in the details here. So I think language needs to refer to, the whole issue about the panning, but I also am not so sure. I don't know if we would have approved metal windows or if they would have been clad windows. And so I feel like I
think the rule, if the windows met the rule in terms of configuration in row houses that historically had 1/1 double hung windows. The staff can approve aluminum 1/1 sashes.
Mm-hmm,
Doesn't have to be aluminum clad.
mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so that's where I stand on it.
It sounds to me like commissioners are comfortable with approving existing windows for the remainder of their natural. Okay, so the question about the
Brick mold.
language, all stuff is we're not approving the brick mold. Is that what, that's my understanding. So what we're saying is the existing windows can remain until they need to be replaced. At that time, they will need to meet the rules. So there's no need for any other explicit language in this approval. So just so we're all clear about what we're approving.
We're just approving as presented.
That's right. Until they need to be replaced.
And you're comfortable with that? We'll be finding it appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Okay.
that we're saying that at this moment in time, this is often that when they come back, they'll need to either do the original or they can of course come back and seek to have the 1/1 continue.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Chapin, would you make a motion to approve?
Okay. In the matter of a certificate of appropriateness, Borough of Manhattan, LPC 24-08751, 167 West 72nd Street, Upper West Side, Central Park West Historic District. A store and apartment building originally built as a row house in 1883 to 1884 and modified in 1909 by E. Wilbur. Application is to legalize the replacement of windows without Landmark Preservation Commission permits. I note that the building's style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Upper West Side, Central Park West Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the building is not part of an intact row, and some of the historic windows were removed prior to designation of the historic district, resulting in an inconsistent fenestration pattern at the time of designation. That the existing windows match the historic early 20th century windows in terms of double hung operation and finish. That the 1/1 configuration is consistent with windows often found at early 20th century redesigns of row houses within this historic district, and was sometimes the original configuration of windows of buildings of this type and style. That the current configuration of the windows is uniform throughout the residential floors and harmonious with the facade design, and that the metal material of the windows is not readily discernible due to their placement at and above the third floor.
And Commissioner Vice Chair Bland, would you second that motion?
Second.
Mark, will you call the vote? Aye.
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 All right, good luck. We'll move to the public hearing agenda.
We'll start with public hearing item number 1, LPC 25-06592, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, Block 324, Lot 15, 27 Strong Place in the Cobble Hill Historic District. A late 19th century row house, and the application is to replace entrance doors, construct roof and rear yard additions, and reconstruct the rear facade.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cass Stackelberg, Higgins, Quays, Barth and Partners. I'm joined by Kevin Lindors of Sachs Lindors Architects. I'll be running through the presentation, and Kevin and I are available for any questions. Just adjust this, excuse me. The project that we're presenting to you today is located at 27 Strong Place in the Cobble Hill Historic District, district map on the left. The district is one of the city's earliest historic districts, was designated in 1969, and you can see the building on the right side as it appears today. A view along the streetscape 27 Strong Place is near the center of the photograph. It was constructed in the 1840s. This designation report doesn't have precise dates, but from a variety of sources, our understanding is it's late 1840s. And it was built as a row of 3 houses, 27, 29, and 31 Strong Place, which were built together. The buildings to the left, the brownstone-clad buildings, were built a bit later. A summary slide here, axonometric on the left is the existing, on the right is the proposed, and a few things to point out to you. So the scope of work that's before you today is replacing the 2 leaves of the front door, which are worn, and you'll see there's some detailing that has led to their degradation that we're looking to replace. The historic transom would remain. On the roof, we're proposing a setback rooftop addition, 1-story addition with chimney extensions clad in brick, and you'll see in a bit in the presentation these visible brick-clad chimney extensions are actually quite characteristic of the streetscape, and the addition. And I'll just point out that the house two to the south, which is 31 Strong Place, had a very similar scope of work on the roof, rooftop construction, chimney extensions. That was approved by the commission in 2022 and constructed, I think, in 22 and 23. Flipping around to the rear, so again, the left is the existing and the right is the proposed. Again, 31 Strong Place is at the left margin of those images, and then our proposed work here at 27 Strong. And there are a few elements to point out. Obviously, the addition on the roof and the chimney extensions, we're proposing to reconstruct the back of the house, which is currently clad in brick that's been covered in cement. There are fish plates. You'll see details of that. There's an engineer's report in the appendix that describes the conditions of the back of the house, which is described as in poor condition. So looking to rebuild the back of the house, cladded in brick. The upper 2 floors will align with a fenestration of the buildings in the row at 29 and 31, and then reconstructing an existing 2-story extension in its current height, slightly deeper than the existing, and cladding that in brick as well. So those are the elements of the proposal that we're presenting today. A site plan, a couple things to point out here. One thing to note, not only the sort of irregular geometry of the lot, but these are deep lots. The ones including 27 Strong are 105 feet deep, somewhat deeper than is typical. And then you can just see the footprint of the surrounding buildings in the row, and a block plan later in the presentation will show you the sort of prevalence of 2 and even 3-story extensions. Some historic maps just showing the development of the block. You can see sort of through the 19th century, the block was filled in with a series of row houses, as is typical for the Cobble Hill Historic District. And the tax photo on the right shows the building in its condition approximately 100 years after its construction, largely intact. At the time of designation, the front of the building had been overclad in a light-colored brick, same at 29 Strong Place. And then the 1980s tax photo on the right shows the same condition, stoop remaining, but the overall facade had been overclad. And all of that was taken back, and the facade was restored about 25 years ago under staff review. And some photographs of the existing building as it appears, overview on the left, details of the upper portions of the facade, and the areaway on the lower right, so you can see the current conditions of the house. Roof photos, skylights, vents. You can see the chimneys on both sides of the house are masonry clad. And then looking, this is the view from the south. This is the addition at 31 Strong Place. And there were chimney extensions in metal that were approved as part of that commission approval from a few years ago. Turning around now to the back of the house, again, 27 is in the center of the photograph. The 3 historic buildings in the row were 29 and 31. You can see 31 has been completely rebuilt. The back of that house, too, previously was clad in stucco, as is the back of the house at 27 and 29, all with 2-story extensions off the back of them. And some detailed photographs of the back of the house, a fire escape / ladder off the back, second and third floor onto the roof of the extension. And you can begin to see some of the realignments of openings that have been made over time on the back of the house. Some details here: cracking, reconstructed parapet with cast concrete coping. Window alignments on the second floor in particular that have been altered, but we have a good sense of where the historic openings were, both from the building at 27, but also from its neighbors at 29 and 31. Comparative street elevations, again, the replacement of the two leaves of the front doors, which we'll talk about in just a minute, a modestly scaled addition at about 9.5 feet from the roof level to the roof of the addition, and the raised chimneys seen in elevation. Turning to the door, so the existing two leaves of doors, you can see the mail slot was cut through the bottom rail of the left panel, and the proposal is to basically replace the doors in kind in wood, but to insert the mail slot on the taller, heavier bottom portion of the bottom rail. The transom will be retained. We've got details illustrating the sort of one-for-one nature of the replacement. Some photographs. The transom, as I mentioned, will be retained, and the two leaves of the doors will be replaced with a mail slot set at a slightly lower elevation on that left panel. Some detailed photographs just showing the wear on these doors and a desire to have sort of clean, fresh, better quality or higher, better conditioned doors with that mail slot a little bit lower on the panel. Flipping around to the rear, so an existing elevation on the left and proposed on the right. As I mentioned, the upper floors would be reconstructed in brick. We've got a sample board here with a brick and mortar that's proposed, cast stone lintels and sills, the addition above, and then the reconstructed two-story extension at the lower portion, sort of a lower basement level, and then a parlor level at the back of the extension. Same elevation with dimensions. All the masonry opening, the dimensions of the masonry openings will be consistent with what's there today. We've added these in, the dimensions in, to indicate the size of the openings, the placement on the elevations that will be consistent from what is there today to what is proposed. And then the extension below. The windows on the upper floors will be in wood, double hung. The windows in the extension will be steel, painted in accordance to the finished samples here. And then another elevation, this just illustrates the continuity sort of across the row. So again, the historic row is 27, 29, and 31. And so with the work that we're proposing here at 27, we're going to really reestablish that connection, at least among two of the three historic buildings in the row. The top two floors will align, and then the extension below, slightly different expression and design across the elevation of that extension, but I think the commissioners often will approve variations in design and volume across these extensions, even within a row. Again, some details on the upper portions of the facade indicating what we anticipate to be the historic bond, which is just a common bond. We'll uncover that when we peel back the stucco off the back doing probes. But again, you can just see the regularity of the elevation, common bond, red brick with cast stone lintels and sills in the addition above. Some details at the base of the building, again, steel windows, painted spandrels, and brick elevation, heavy brick piers framing the openings and giving it a real sense of substantialness. An existing section through the building, the heights on the front of the house and the back of the house are unchanged. I'll just point out the slope of the roof and also the height of the room in the back of the top floor. At 8'3", there's not a lot of head height at that elevation. We're rebuilding the roof to set the addition down into the body of the building, but we can't push it down much further because of the head heights. We're already reducing that by about three inches, just given the arrangement of the rear elevation. So again, the back of the house remains at the parapet at 39 feet 4 inches. The addition, the overall height of the addition is 9'9" with an interior height of 8'10", and it's set back almost 17.5 feet from the front of the house and about 5 feet off the back of the house. So the historic volume of the building is clearly legible. And then you can see at the base of the section, the extension of the building off the back of the house with a limited amount of excavation directly below the extension. Sightline diagrams just illustrating the view from across the street. The proposed sightline just illustrates that the tops of the chimney extensions are visible. The addition is not visible. The rooftop mechanicals are not visible. The only element that's visible from across the street is the top of the chimney extensions. Some detailing of the addition. It'll be in a fire-resistant cedar that finish as per the material board. Infill will be steel and glass windows and other details illustrating the lead-coated copper coping. A series of details here of the back extension, the brick cladding across the back of the elevation of the building, the corbelling across the top of the elevation. As we know right now, the corbelling that's there today is non-historic. It's clear from the materials and the detailing. It's a sort of dogtooth detail. The detailing at 31 is a sort of more regular sort of dental-like corbelling. We're proposing sort of a combination of the two. We don't know what was there historically, but we feel like this is an appropriate design for brick corbelling across the parapet at the back of the elevation. Some comparable elevations at the roof, just illustrating the various elements, the chimney extensions. The chimneys at the front of the house would be clad in brick. Those in the back would just be pipe or chimney extensions, just the metal extensions, and then you can see the scale of the addition with its setback from the front of the house. Flipping around to the other side, similar details and elements on the roof, and then material samples, terracotta chimney caps, a Belden brick for the cladding of the chimneys, and then various cladding materials for the rooftop elements and finish for that. Flipping around to the back, similar set of materials, Belden brick across the upper portions of the facade and the extension, cast stone for lintels and sills, and color samples for the windows and the infill elements. Sightline and visibility studies. This is a view of the building. So this is directly across the street. On the left is the view with the mock-up. On the right is the rendered view. And as I mentioned, the chimney extension will be visible. It's clad in brick with a terracotta chimney cap. And then as you move up and down the street, this is now looking south down Strong Place. Mock-up view on the right and rendered view on the left. These chimney extensions are visible, but as you'll see in just a moment, this is actually almost a character-defining feature of the district. You see this quite a bit up and down the streets. This is a view looking north now on Strong Place. So just through the trees, this view will disappear soon. This is the extension of the chimneys here. These are the commission-approved metal extensions as part of the 31 Strong approval from a few years ago. We think actually that the brick is sort of more sympathetic to the streetscape and what you see in the immediate area. This view now looking north from DeGraw, again, it's visible through the trees. We included it because you can see it from this perspective, but very difficult to discern. Similarly, looking south from Kane Street, you see this through the trees, but part of the streetscape. We've also included two views from Clinton Street. There's this narrow 5 or 6 foot gap between these two houses. When you're standing directly in line with the gap, you're actually only seeing 31 and 29. You don't see 27, but there's this moment, and we represent that on the right, where you do see the top of the building sort of through this narrow gap. Similarly, a few houses to the north, there's even a narrower gap. We include this just for full disclosure. There is a very modest amount of visibility of the back of the house from these points. As I mentioned, walking the Cobble Hill Historic District, houses ranging from the 1840s through the 1880s, 1890s. You see chimney extensions throughout the district. This is just within about 2 blocks of the actual project site. I didn't go throughout the whole district, but and this is a selection of photos. You see these really throughout the district. So unlike some neighborhoods, maybe where you're seeing metal extensions, these chimney extensions, and these are historic. These are not commission-approved extensions. This is something that is actually quite typical of the district and of the streetscape. Some other commission approved examples. This is Strong Place, 31 Strong Place, which I mentioned. This was approved with metal chimney extensions, which you can see in these photographs, and there are other examples on Baltic and Tompkins as well. Looking at the rear and just looking at the block context, there are a range of 2, 3, and even 4-story extensions off the backs of these houses. Again, varying depths from one another across the block, and we document that here. Heights, we've included elevations on both sides of the street. On the top across the top of the slide is the proposed addition in the context of that side of the street, and then the opposite side of the street. So again, sort of a limited addition, not much taller than anything on the surrounding streets. Photos from the roof, again, just illustrating the range of extensions off the back of the house. So this is existing view looking northeast on the left and southeast on the right, and then kind of an overlay here showing what the heights of those relative extensions are off the house. So the 2-story extension we're proposing is very much consistent in height with what's around. As I said, there are 2, 3, and 4-story extensions throughout the block. And now just a series of plans at the cellar. There's a bit of excavation work underneath the extension. We've been working with the staff on that. That's not part of the commission review, but we share it with you here. And then a plan at the basement level, so you can see the reconstruction of the extension a few feet deeper than the existing, but in proportion of the overall lot, again, I mentioned it was 105 feet. In proportion of the overall lot, there's still quite a bit of green space in the back of this lot, and then throughout the block, given the extensions that exist. And then as we move up the house, this is at the parlor floor. So again, you can see the extension off the back of the house, and then the rear yard beyond. And I'll just finish up on the plans with the roof plan. So again, you can see the existing roof plan on the top and the proposed on the bottom. As I mentioned, the addition is set almost 17 and a half feet back from the front. It's not visible. The chimneys directly adjacent will be slightly visible, but consistent with what one sees around the neighborhood. And then off the back of the roof, the addition is set back just under 5 feet off the back of the house. And then an upper roof plan, again, the addition, the mechanical equipment, the condensing unit that's shown here, not visible from the surrounding streets. Detail roof plan, and then finally, just to conclude, proposed axometrics on the front and the back of the house. The addition, as I mentioned, is not visible from the surrounding streets. The chimneys are typical of the district. And then across the rear, reconstructing the upper portions of the elevation in brick, aligning it with the adjacent buildings. The windows will align as they do today to sort of establish and maintain that relationship between the 3 houses across the historic row. And then the rear extension clad in brick with painted metal and steel window infill, proportionally appropriate for the building. A bit slightly deeper than its adjacent neighbor, but we think sort of in the context of this deep lot can be appropriate. And I think collectively the back of the house, rebuilding the back of the house will ensure the building's long-term preservation as part of this overall project.
And I think I just want to note that I believe the staff has received an engineer's report to confirm the need to reconstruct the rear facade. Vice Chair Bland?
Question, how many feet are you projecting further than the neighbor to the left?
1'10" beyond the neighbor.
110, 1 foot 10 inches. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Commissioner Ginsburg?
So I have a few questions related to energy code,
Yes.
which is not directly our purview, but could affect the design. So let me go through them.
Sure. And I'm going to invite Kevin to join me because I probably won't be able to
The
answer.
roof is quite thin. I'm not sure there's enough insulation there to meet the code. The walls seem to have a lot of thermal breaks and a lot of missing insulation. And then the cellar walls, the new cellar walls have no insulation on the details that are shown. And so I'm raising this. And then the other thing, the one small cooling condenser on the roof seems undersized. And if we approve this, you're gonna be coming back in a month and saying, ooh, whoops, we need this much more.
Let me just start. So as you know, I mean, Kevin's going to speak to the details. These are not construction details. It's sort of in, to be developed based on the results of the hearing. I'll also mention on the condensing unit, anything we do will not become visible and will not come back to you for sure. Like that's for sure.
Thank you.
If there's a change to that.
My name is Kevin Lindors. I'm from Saks Lindors. As Cass said, we will be meeting the energy code with all of this. Actually, the roof is thick enough. We have taken that into consideration to make sure we have the proper insulation. So we did do that. The basement, we probably haven't actually got around to detailing. So we'll make sure that there's insulation there. The rooftop unit, the engineer has proposed it. It's actually one of the bigger Mitsubishi ones that, does a variable heat and cooling. So it shouldn't change. So
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? All right, let's move to public testimony and then we'll come back. And I'll note that there is no one in the hearing room to speak on this item, so I will turn it over to Stephen to see if we have any remote participants.
Anyone joining us via Zoom, please use the raise hand function. Our first speaker will be Lucy Levine. I'll be promoting you to panelist, after which we ask you to unmute yourself, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. HDC believes that the depths of the proposed rear extension should align with its neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else joining via Zoom who would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. Seeing none, I will note that Brooklyn Community Board 6 recommends conditional approval provided that the rear yard extension matches the depth of the original extension and for the HVAC units to be smaller.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to respond to the comments?
Just quickly, I think, regarding the depth of the extension, I think, what's important in terms of maintaining the sort of continuity of this row is up at the upper floors of this building. And the second and third floors, and that consistency now in brick, but also the alignments of the windows and the size of the windows, that relationship is clearly established by the work on the upper floors. The commission has allowed variability in design and geometry and volume, I think, to extensions. This first level of the extension, this is the basement level, much of it is actually hidden by the fence because much of it is below grade. So it's, as we mentioned, it's a 1'10", 22-inch difference. It makes a difference to the layouts of the interior. Obviously not your purview, but I think thinking about appropriateness, thinking about the relationship of the houses, I think these upper floors really maintain the reading of the historic volume, and that some variation in the extension could be found appropriate just based on different designs and needs on these lower floors, these sort of working sides of the lower floors of the building. And I'll just note on the rooftop mechanicals, as I mentioned, these are not visible from the public way. And if they have to change, they'll, as I mentioned earlier, they will maintain that non-visibility. So.
All right, and I think just looking at you submitted a block plan that shows the depths of all the additions in the block, and it shows that there are other deeper ones, well, not in this row of 3, on this side of the street as well as immediately behind. Okay, Commissioners, any other final questions?
The HVAC, they shown here? Oh, it's this big gray thing. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, any other final questions? All right, yes, Commissioner Lutfi. That's a skylight, I think.
Do you want me to should I go back to the visibility? Yeah, it's from across the street up and down, it is only the chimneys. Yeah.
And just the front chimneys that are.
Yeah, just the ones that are in brick.
Yes, Commissioner Master.
What was the reasoning behind putting the terracotta caps on the chimneys?
It was a preference of the client. They liked them as a detail. So.
And again, it's a typical detail. You see it, some of them are metal, some of them are terracotta as one walks the district.
All right. Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Jefferson.
The PC-18. The rear facade, I think you guys did a great job on the rear facade. But, the bay window coming out, the low, at the basement level, you have the walls cutting in, and then you have on the parallel level, you have it flat. And then on the right-hand side, you have this window. And the composition just falls apart for me there for some reason. I mean, that's not our purview, but it just,
I
and
think there's
I'm
something
trying to figure
similar
out
on-
how you would
Let me,
fix it. And
Sorry, let me just go back to and I may have Kevin, because this is Kevin's design, but I think it's
there,
really about
yeah.
bringing daylight, into the interior. Again, the lower portion is at the basement level. But Kevin, if you want to speak to the ideas behind it. So that's where the stair is. We moved the stair back there, and I think, we wanted to bring the window up. So when you walk in the front door, you look out, you get that sense of light in the back. So that was kind of where that idea was coming from. That's why the window is kind of as tall as it is.
But I also think the house 2 buildings over has something similar, right? Doesn't it also have a vertical window?
It's very tall at 31. Yeah, here, let me, we have this in the elevations, right?
Oh, I see. It's
I mean,
brick.
yours is better and in a way, but it's not there yet, but this is just my opinion of design.
All right. Other questions? All right, let's move to our discussion. Commissioner Goldblum, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Commissioner Ginsburg?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the hearing is closed. So we're looking at this application for a rooftop and rear yard addition. It also includes reconstructing the top 2 floors, for which we've received an engineer's report explaining need and methods. And I think it also includes replacing the front door as well, right? Okay. Vice Chair Bland?
It seems like this is pretty much a model of how to do this. We see so many of them, and this kind of adheres to much of the normal way we approve. I think the front door is clear. It's being replaced kind of in kind. It's just beaten up and going to be replaced almost exactly the way it is now, as I understood it. The rooftop addition is not visible from the street and barely visible from oblique angles. The chimney is visible, but as the presentation made clear, there are lots of other visible chimneys. I think there's no problem for me anyway to see these chimneys appearing, and I think they're much handsomer when they're brick and not metal. So I think it's not a problem, at least for me, to see it. I think it's been detailed nicely, and the terracotta is nicer than a metal cap too. The rear, the extension 22 inches beyond the neighbor causes me no agita at all. I think that's fine. It's close enough. The second and third floor recreated wall will recreate exactly the openings that are there now, and those relate to the row, 2 houses to the left. So that's fine. The brick seems reasonable. Working with staff, I'm sure they'll work closely with staff to get the brick right. And then the lower level, I think, is quite elegant. Rather than producing as we so often see, a big expanse across the whole front, they've actually let it go for just the 2 windows as opposed to the third. And I think that's it's a handsome ensemble. So all in all, I can improve everything.
Commissioner Chapin?
I think that the, it's appropriate. the fact that it is a little odd that it extends beyond because the others right in the row, but there are, as you pointed out, Chair, other extensions that are further extending in the entire row. So, and well, the chimneys are highly visible. There are others, so that also could be found appropriate. Yeah, I wouldn't mind if it could be reduced somewhat in visibility, but I'm not sure that's how feasible that is. So I'll go along, I guess, with what the majority has on that, but in general, I can find it appropriate.
All right, Commissioner Lutfi?
Yeah, I agree with both with Fred and Diana. This is a very good project overall. Strong Place is a great little block, you know, that sits between Henry and Clinton in the heart of Cobble Hill. And, you know, the buildings are wonderful. It's great that that marble facade was taken off years ago, and the applicant seems to be very thoughtful in what they're doing here in every single way. The front door, the back. I love that you know, the windows on the two top floors not only are what they were, but they you know, they fit in with what's around them. I think the extra, however, foot that's there means nothing. These are all very deep lots. I mean, that's the way, and the buildings in Cobble Hill are also pretty wide. So I think the donut can certainly handle it. And I'm not going to get into the other details of the materials. I think everything is great. I do think it would be good for, even though there are chimneys here and some of them are visible, some of them are not, you know, many of these homes, they're not even working anymore. They're just there because they were there originally. But I think it would be good for the applicant to work with staff to see if the height of the chimneys in the front could be reduced a bit.
Yeah, the height probably is dictated by code.
Mhm.
So they have to be. They can look at maybe angling it. Right, Commissioner Master?
Yeah, in general, I agree with Commissioner Bland. Replacing the leaves of the front door is fine. The rooftop addition is fine. Reconstructing the rear is fine. The rear yard that comes out slightly beyond their adjacent neighbor is also fine. The chimney, I agree with Commissioner Lutfi that, you know, maybe they can work with staff to see if they can minimize the visibility, to see if anything can be done. But, you know, if that can't be, I could also approve it as is.
Commissioner Jefferson?
Yeah. I think the application of the entrance door is fine, makes total sense. I think the chimney, though, it should, instead of being brick, should be metal. And that way it would say that it's different. It's not a application of the facade. That's, I do think the front facade works very well. I think the rear facade is almost there. And the problem for me was just that the top and the bottom seem to be of the same language, but then you have this portion to the right, a different language, and it just seems kind of not totally resolved.
Commissioner Goldblum?
Yeah, I agree with the general consensus that this is an appropriate scheme. I do want to call out the use of fire treated wood. I love it. I think it's really nice, and I think it's remarkably contextual, actually. I think it's a great thing. I agree with Everardo that the rear composition is a little peculiar, but I think considering how much latitude we give folks on rear facades, that I wouldn't hold them up for it.
All right, Commissioner Ginsburg.
So in general, I agree with my fellow commissioners. I tend to think that doing metal extensions of the chimney would be better and potentially could be pulled back to be attached to the mass of the bulkhead. Because it probably has to be that height by code, but that would be a way to minimize the additions. I would also say, although I understand it isn't directly in our purview, it would be good to see designs that are designed to the energy code, so there isn't the possibility of someone having to come back when they find out they got to redesign.
Commissioner Chen.
I'm in agreement with what Commissioner Mastro and Vice Chair Bland said before. I won't repeat it. I think the fact that retaining the facade, the windows in the back, I think is nicely done. And I'm not sure how much can be done with the chimney given the height of the code, unless you want to start bending it and leaning it to the angle. So I would leave it to staff and the applicant.
Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll make a motion to approve it and ask them to explore reducing the visibility of the chimneys, either angling or material, to find the most appropriate solution.
Okay. In the matter of 27 Strong Place in the Cobble Hill Historic District, this is an application to replace entrance doors, construct roof and rear yard additions, and reconstruct the rear facade. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Cobble Hill Historic District. I recommend approval, noting that the new doors will match the historic doors in terms of materials, details, operation, configuration, and finish. That the proposed rear yard addition will be only minimally visible at a distance through a small alleyway on Clinton Street. That other rear yard additions with similar height and depth exist within the block, and that the proposed two-story rear yard addition will be modest in scale and will not overwhelm the building, adjacent buildings, or the block's central green space. That the proposed design and materiality of the rear yard addition, featuring red brick cladding, a projecting dark green finished wood-clad bay window, and a black finished steel multi-light window and door will be installed, will be in keeping with the scale and residential character of the building. That the original rear facade has been previously altered by the installation of stucco cladding and is in poor condition, which will be exacerbated by the construction of the addition below. Therefore, its reconstruction in brick with cast stone lintels and sills is warranted and will bring the building closer to its historic appearance. That the upper stories of the rear facades will be reconstructed in its existing plane, aligning with other rear facades in the row and matching its existing height and fenestration, featuring corbelled brickwork at the cornice, recalling the treatment at historic rear facades. That the rooftop addition will be set back from the front and rear facades, maintaining a sense of the building's historic massing. That the rooftop addition will not be visible from any public thoroughfare. That the simple design and material and typical materials of the rooftop addition, featuring brown finished wood, clapboards, and metal windows and doors, will be in keeping with the character of other rooftop accretions within the historic district, and that the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the building or the Cobble Hill Historic District. Furthermore, I recommend the applicant work closely with staff to explore ways by which the visibility of the chimney can be reduced.
All right, thank you. And Commissioner Chapin, would you second that motion?
Second.
All right, Mark, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Commissioner Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin.
Aye.
Commissioner Chen.
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum. Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi.
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
9 in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
Approved. Thank you. We'll move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 2. LPC 25-05217. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, block 292, lot 13, 168 Pacific Street in the Cobble Hill Historic District. This is a Greek Revival style house built circa 1835 to 36. And the application is to construct rear yard and rooftop additions and to replace windows.
Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Peter Guthrie. I'm the owner and designer of this building at this renovation of 168 Pacific Street. And if you're ready, we'll jump right in. 168 Pacific Street between Court and Clinton. This is the front facade. Gothic revival, late 1830s, so mid 1830s, probably 1835, 36. We're not sure exactly. These are the historic photos. We're proposing to basically keep the 6/6 and change the paint color and put a gate in the front, and I'll take you through that. Existing elevation to the left, proposed to the right, showing the rooftop extension proposed. Rear elevations, left side existing, right side proposed. Shows the rooftop addition, proposed addition, and the lower 2-story addition. The idea is to keep the rear facade on the upper 2 floors. And we've uncovered that it used to have clapboard siding, so we're proposing to install wood clapboard siding, cedar, and we'll paint it, and it'll be on a rain screen. Going to remove the existing shingles and do some waterproofing, and then slight purlins and attach the cedar clapboard, and then 2/2 Marvin wood ultimate double hung windows with 1 door in the middle. All the windows are the existing openings to remain. Section existing left, proposed on the right. That's the section cut all the way to the east side. Existing plans, proposed plans. The dark poche shows the additions in the rear, proposed, and the rooftop addition all the way to the right. Just point out marker, but on the upper right hand side, you could see how the roof jiggy jogs a little bit. Just say that is mostly because of a 10-foot radius that we're keeping from the neighbor's flue to not raise that flue, which we thought would create more visibility from the street. This is existing block plan, and it shows a number of additions in the rear of 2-story additions on the Amity side. Right next to us is a 2-story addition. That's the photo in the middle. You can see that addition coming out of the brick building, where the second photo from the left is our rear facade. The 4th photo over is our neighbor to the east, and then the blue tarp just shows work that's ongoing on Amity Street that was previously approved here. Proposed on the right, existing left, shows the rear addition in the back, 2 stories. set back slightly with, it has a jog in it, and you'll see that in plan. We thought that would be a little bit more sensitive to our, for our east neighbor who we're in good contact with. They're elderly and we have a good rapport, so I want to keep that going. And the rooftop is just showing a fence in the back and a fence that we set back to the fireplaces, again, to remove any possibility of visibility. This is the mock-up. This is where there is visibility on Pacific. It starts essentially from the former school building there. Starting from the east side of 174, as you walk along, there's a small section where you do get a sliver of the extension of the terracotta fireplace, well, chimney flues. This diagram shows just in pink what you would see from the street in that small zone. The roof is, the top addition is clad in a concrete board, charcoal color, and the flues are terracotta. We're gonna have to raise 2 courses of brick and then just repair that cap and then add one of the terracotta flue liner sections. The other portion, in lieu of raising those chimneys up, we would have to raise them above our roof. We decided, and that would create another component of visibility. We decided that we could angle them over and incorporate them into our building. We thought that would be more sensitive. And there's one existing the neighbors. As you're walking along Pacific, there's a moment where you do see that building. That's the TARP building on Amity Street, and you do see the full extension of the building, just to give a sense of context of other things that are going on in the neighborhood, and one that was approved at this body. No visibility from the front, no visibility from the west side. The rear, again, going from left to right, that's our existing facade, upper left. That's looking south east. The next slide with the blue tarp, then you're looking basically straight back, straight south, and then all the way to the right, you're looking southwest. Lower 2 slides show the existing rear yard, and now we've just done a quick photo montage, give a sense of the white 3-coat stucco at the bottom, not ephes, it's a traditional stucco, and the white clapboard and double hung, everything all wood, painted. The concrete board roof, top addition with all wood, white oak windows, painted black. Details. Front 6/6, we decided to keep this 6/6. That was a good suggestion by many, and we agreed, made sense. And we're proposing only a slight change of, there's a neighbor down the street. We've measured it. We just put a tape measure there just to say that we have gone out and field measured it. These are the rear double hung windows. And this is the front, just showing gate somehow falling off, keeping everything else, and just amending the entrance in because there's an existing hatch and it's awkward that you have to step onto the hatch to go down the stairs. So we're proposing keeping the existing bluestone as much as we can, and then just gently curving ourselves in. Okay, that's it.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any questions? Yes, Commissioner
The
Jefferson.
rear facade is wood shingles, correct? And the new facade is what?
The upper portion of the new facade is clapboard. It's a wood clapboard siding. So this portion is clapboard siding. This portion is a white stucco. We do what we do is a 3-coat stucco system, and then we do an elastomeric paint over top of it. You're welcome.
Other questions? All right, let's see if we have any public testimony, and I'll note that there is no one in the hearing room to speak, so I will turn it over to Stephen to see if we have any remote participants.
Anyone joining us via Zoom who would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. Seeing none, I will note that Brooklyn Community Board 6 recommends approval. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so supportive testimony. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we move to our discussion? Okay, and any final questions, commissioners? No, and Corey, did you see my question too? Okay. All right, so let's make a motion to close the hearing. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you make a motion to close the hearing? Thanks. Commissioner Chen, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So we're looking at this as a proposal again for a rooftop and rear yard addition, and to reclad the upper floors in a clapboard. And this addition, you catch just a line of it, that if you all saw the slide with the pink line, looking obliquely over the front facade, and you see one set of chimneys. The other set has been incorporated into the addition to minimize its visibility. And I think the windows are now being reviewed at staff level. So we're just looking at the rooftop and rear yard additions. Commissioner Lutfi, would you like to go ahead?
Sure. I also think this is a very good project. Thank you for a very clear and simple presentation. So I do want to say, even though we're not reviewing it, I think it's great that you're doing the 6/6 windows. I think, the rear yard addition is done well. It's wonderful that you found the clapboard and that you are replacing it. So thank you for that. I think overall it's very modest in scale. It's in keeping with what's around it in the donut from what we can see. From, the stucco makes sense from a materiality standpoint. The windows are very simple, the stairwell. I mean, I think it's great, and you're doing those 2/2s. And it's not visible. The rooftop addition is also well done. It's set back, and as has been presented, and Sarah also said there's just a slight visibility, from an angle, on Pacific Street. I think, the volume and the materiality, works very well. So I could approve this.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Master.
I agree with Commissioner Lutfi. I think it's a very modest proposal. Well done. I can find it appropriate.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Well done.
Okay. Commissioner Goldblum.
Great.
And Commissioner Ginsburg.
Appropriate.
Commissioner Chen.
Same here.
And Vice Chair Bland and Commissioner Chapin. Okay, so we have a consensus.
Great.
Commissioner Lutfi, would you make the motion?
Sure. In the matter of docket 25-05217, 168 Pacific Street, Cobble Hill Historic District, a Greek Revival style house built in circa 1835 to 86. The application is to construct a rear yard and rooftop additions and replace windows. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Cobble Hill Historic District. I recommend approval finding that the proposed work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the rear yard addition will not be visible from any public thoroughfare, that other rear yard additions with a similar height and depth exist within the block, and that the proposed two-story rear yard addition will be modest in scale and will not overwhelm the building, adjacent buildings, or the block's central green space. That the rear yard addition will not rise to the full height of the building, thereby preserving a sense of the building's original form and fenestration as part of the row. The proposed materials and design of the rear yard addition featuring stucco cladding and single pane window assemblies and with transoms and spandrel panels will be in keeping with the scale and residential character of rear facades found within the block and within the district. That the proposed rooftop addition will not be visible over the front facade and only a small portion of the rooftop addition will be visible from a limited area on Pacific Street over the facade, the side facade beyond the neighboring row house. That the proposed rooftop addition will be set back from the front and rear facades, maintaining a sense of the building's original massing. That the cement board siding and simple fenestration of the rooftop addition will be in keeping with the character of the row house and of other rooftop additions within the Cobble Hill Historic District. That the added cumulative volume of the rooftop and rear yard additions will not overwhelm the building or the row, and that the work will not detract from the special architectural or historic character of the building or the historic district.
You, Commissioner Master, would you second that motion?
Second.
All right, Mark.
Chair
will you call-
Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Bland. Aye. Commissioner Chapin,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi,
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
9 in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
That's approved. Thank you. And we'll move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 3, LPC 25-03773. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, Block 307, Lot 31, 220 Cork Street in the Cobble Hill Historic District. This is a row house built in the early 1850s. The application is to construct a rear yard addition.
All right, good morning, everyone. Yeah, that's me. Thank you. All right, good morning. My name is Handy Dimitri. I'm here to represent Sotir Associates in presenting this rear yard extension at 220 Court. It falls in the Cobble Hill District in Brooklyn, and it falls on the commercial strip of Court Street between Warren and Baltic Street. The property falls on the western side of Court Street, and on that strip we have more than 50% full extensions to the full property depth of Court into the block donut. There's no. This is an aerial photo showing the building. It falls on midway on the block, and I don't know if it's visible. There's a little red block. I think we have a better picture coming up on this slide. This is the full depth to the south. The building has a 2 full story extension, not extending the full depth of the property. And on the right, there is another 1-story extension on the building, on both buildings on the next door. This is the existing condition right now, and that's what's being proposed at 220. These are historic pictures on the front. These are current pictures of the front of the block, and that's the existing rear facade as it stands right now, with the proposed just extending backwards. There are no windows, they're all property line walls. And it's proposed to be finished with brick to match size and color of the existing facade of the building, rear facade of the building. There is zero visibility from Court Street and from the side streets as well, as we'll see it. That's the existing plan, starting with the cellar floor to the far left, and that's the proposed. That's a section through the building showing the railing on top to instead of a full parapet, and a skylight down the middle to bring in natural light in the space. We have, these are the existing conditions of the rear yard right now. And that picture is taken on Warren Street of a gap in between the buildings. There's still zero visibility from the sidewalk because of the gate and the buildings, and then there are the other extensions on the other buildings coming on the rear yards of Court Street. But the picture on the right is actually taken from the top of the stoop of the building that's on the picture on the left side, and with like as high as possible to show still that it's still even at that level. This is more than 10 to 12 feet above the sidewalk. It's still not visible. It will be behind the shed and the extension on the left side. Again, these are pictures from up above at our building. The picture in the middle is taken from the building next door, showing our rear yard to the left of it. And pretty much that's all. We have the wall types for the cladding and
Okay.
right, yep.
Any questions, commissioners? All right, and I know that there is no one in the room to speak on this, so let's see if we have any testimony on this one. Virtual testimony.
Anyone joining us, I assume, who would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. Seeing none, I will note that Brooklyn Community Board 6 recommends approval.
Okay, all right. So I think if there are no other questions, commissioners, we can move to our discussion. Is there anything you'd like to say before we do that?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the clear presentation. All right, Commissioner, Vice Chair Bland, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Chapin. Would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so this is a proposal for a one-story full lot extension, which is not visible from a public thoroughfare and is on Court Street, which is a commercial street. And so it's in a block where other houses have full lot commercial extensions as well. Commissioner Master, would you like to start this one?
I think it's a fairly straightforward presentation. It's a one-story addition. You know, there are other, you know, houses along the block that also have this one-story full lot addition. And it's not visible from a public thoroughfare, so I can find this appropriate.
Okay, Commissioner Jefferson?
We're going for commercial use. And the one wonderful thing they did was to put this huge skylight in, which I hope it's huge, that brings light into it. Yeah.
That's nice. Thank you.
Great.
Commissioner Goldblum?
I agree it's appropriate.
Commissioner Ginsburg?
Appropriate.
Everybody else agree? Any other comments?
It's appropriate in context.
All right, so Commissioner Master, I think we can make a motion to approve.
In the matter of LPC 25-03773, 220 Court Street in the Cobble Hill Historic District, a row house built in the early 1850s, application is to construct a rear yard addition. I note that the building's style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Cobble Hill Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the rear yard addition will not be visible from any public thoroughfare, that the building is located at the end of the block along a commercial thoroughfare where there are other buildings with full lot coverage additions. Therefore, the work will not diminish the block's central green space, that the one-story rear yard addition will not rise to the full height of the building, thereby preserving a sense of the building's original form and fenestration as part of a row, that the brick cladding and simple picket railing on the roof of the addition are in keeping with the materials found on rear facades throughout the historic district, and that the work will not detract from the special architectural or historic character of the building, the streetscape, or the historic district.
Thank you. Commissioner Jefferson, would you second that motion?
So second.
All right, Mark?
Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Commissioner Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Chapin.
Aye.
Commissioner Chen.
He left.
Okay. Commissioner Ginsburg.
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi.
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
With 8 in favor and none opposed, the motion passed.
All right, that's approved. Thank you. And we'll move to the next item, next two items.
I'll go ahead and read both of those items in together since they're being presented together. We have public hearing item number 4, LPC 24-09716, an application for a certificate of appropriateness, the Borough of Queens, block 10299, lot 48, 112, 24, 177th Street in the Adderley Park Historic District, currently a vacant lot, and application to construct a new building. And public hearing item number 5, LPC 24-09715, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Queens, block 10299, lot 48, 112, 28, 177th Street in the Adderley Park Historic District, a vacant lot. Application is to construct a new building. The applicants are on Zoom, so we'll have them present shortly.
The applicants are remote, so I'll just be giving them remote control. Yeah, the applicants, you now have control of the presentation. If you want to state your name for the record, you can begin.
Oh, this is for me. Oh, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please go ahead. Please
Okay,
state your
thank
name.
you.
Yes, please state
My
your
name
name.
is, yes, my name is Yunus Yakub, and I do apologize. I am trying to get this process moved along. My presenter suddenly lost contact with her computer. So I'm trying to pick up here. We are proposing these 2 new buildings in Adderley Park. And we had one meeting with the community board, and we were advised that they had no objections with the plans that we presented them initially. We have done a lot of research in this area, and the 2 houses that we are proposing are in keeping with the characteristic of the street frontage. They are 2 single-family homes. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get this.
I didn't change for 20. You changed for 20?
I think I do have.
Ma'am, I do apologize. I'm not very familiar with this computer, and my presenter is off the screen. I'm getting someone who can help me. Can your kind office give access to my presenter? Her name is Saba. She's remote.
We need to know the name so we can promote her to the into the attendee list and
Her
I mean,
name is, yes,
panelist list?
her name is Saba Benamara.
She's now accepted and is in the hearing.
Okay. And
You can
Edith,
unmute yourself and begin.
can you pass the control over to that person?
Yes, I'll change the remote control.
Do I have to do it here?
Hello?
Yes, you now have control of the presentation. You just have
No,
to,
I'm not controlling.
you just need to click on the presentation in front of you.
Yes. Okay, I think I'm in now. I'm sorry. I do apologize for this. Uh, So, good morning, commissioners. I do apologize for this issue. My name is Saba Binamara, representing Tabriz Group Enterprise and Architectural Office. I'm here to present our landmark submission for 2 single-family houses at Addis Lake Park. Our goal is to design homes that respect the historic character of the district. Before, I just want to let you know that we have no objection from the community board hearing. I'm sorry. So here, let's take a quick look for the history of the district. Addis Lake Park was developed in 1930s and became known for its colonial style homes. It later became a significant African American neighborhood. Here, yes, here, I'm sorry. Yeah, here I show a map of the historic district to define its boundaries and highlight where the project is located. Neighborhood characteristic study. So in order to understand the architectural language of the area, we studied many houses in the neighborhood. We analyzed and identified key elements such as materials, mostly stucco, brick, wood siding, and stone. Roof style, mostly A roof, gable, and clip gable roof. Windows, double hang, colonial style with decorative brick and half timber framing. So here we have our project here, lot 48 and 49, and this is the left side of our building, and this is the front side across the street, and here we have the right side of our building. The project site is currently a vacant lot, which has been subdivided into 2 lots, 48 and 49. So this is lot 48 and this is lot 49. Close-up photos, streetscapes. So here, to provide a clear understanding of the site surroundings, I have included close-up photos of 177th Street, showing the entire block where our architectural character and how buildings relate to the street. Here, let me see. So here we have looking at 177th Street with our 2 houses located in and integrated in the neighborhood here. Here we have our site plan where we illustrate how the houses are positioned within the lot and their relationship to the surrounding context, where we make the setback as existing houses and we respect the zoning regulation for rear and side yards. I'm sorry. Here we have our project with the adjacent building where we're showing the elevation, which is almost the same as the existing, the one on the left side, on the right side, I'm sorry. And here we try to integrate the building, the 2 houses in the neighborhood. For our curb cut, we are proposing a paired curb cut in order to minimize the impact on the street and have maximum parking places. For our driveway here, we try to respect the existing condition the existing condition in the area, and we propose grass center strip in between the concrete strips. For the, I'm sorry. Here, for the floor plans for the two houses, this is lot 48, and this is lot 49 with modern design, interior modern design, and the exterior, we keep it as much as historic as we can. For the elevations, so after analyzing the existing houses in the neighborhood, we found that most of them have two distinct exterior finishes, brick on the first floor and stucco on the upper floor. We maintained the same materials in our design, with red brick on the first floor and stucco beige color on the upper floor. The beige color is as per 17546 Murdoch Avenue. For the roof, we have a clip gable roof to align with nearby houses on Murdoch Avenue, roof shingle similar to 11220 177th Street, pillar windows, colonial style with decorative grills as per 11235 177th Street, and the entrance design with brick and stone as per 11203 11207 177th Street, and stone border around the door and corner of the building as per 11215 177th Street. For the second house here, we tried to maintain the same concept, except that for the entrance, we tried to make it a little bit different from the first house, where we're proposing brick design entrance to match 12235 177th Street. I make a note here to show that the windows placed without intersecting to the half timber framing, so there is no direct interaction between the window and the framing element. For the side and the rear elevations, we try to maintain the same design language for continuity and integration. This is for the scale exposure plan, where we're showing how the building comply with the zoning regulation for height and setback. And here we have some axonometric view for both houses with the adjacent houses on the left and the right sides. Then here we have some proposed sections and some detail for walls and roof and windows. And here for our materials, we are using for cedar for window surround and wood composite for half timber framing. Finally, this project honor Addis Lake Park's historic character with introducing two well-integrated new houses. We carefully designed them to reflect the neighborhood architecture and preserve its charm. Thank you for your time. I welcome any question, and I do apologize for the technical issue.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions, commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Ginsburg.
Yes, so I have two questions. First of all, on page 26, the window detail seems to show an insulated cavity wall with masonry backup, but the exterior on the left side, but on the right side, the exterior brick veneer wall seems to show brick with a metal stud backup and no cavity. This seems to be inconsistent. Can you explain that?
So for the windows the window detail here, we have, like, we try to make it as much as we can. It's a brick veneer, and this side here, it's maybe the scale is a little bit bigger, so it's look like masonry, but it is not. So I do apologize for this, and I will correct it.
Okay, my second question is to lower the height of the building. I realize there's some windows that might need areaways, but could you lower the would there be any specific reasons why you couldn't lower the basement?
The site actually, if we check, let me see which page, I'm sorry. there is a slide where I show our elevations for the adjacent buildings, so we have almost the same elevation. So here, look, here for the first floor, it's 28, 12, and this is 33. So this is a little bit higher. This is the adjacent building.
Although the building on the left is significantly lower. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, other questions? Okay. It looks like we don't have questions at this moment, so we're going to move to public testimony and see if we have anyone to testify on this item, and then we'll come back to you. And I will note that there is no one in the hearing room to speak on this item, so I will turn it over to Stephen Thompson to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. Anyone joining via Zoom who would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. Our first speaker will be Lucy Levine.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. HDC appreciates the applicant's effort to create contextually appropriate infill for Owsley Park. We think this application could be improved if the applicant gave further attention to the proposed pavement, porches, and roof lines. Specifically, we find the proposed pavement in the front areaway to be excessive for its context, and the front porches to be incongruous with the district. Perhaps moving the porches to the rear facade would offer an appropriate solution. Finally, we feel the roof lines would be more appropriate if they were more steeply pitched in the neo-Tudor style. Thank you.
Thank you. I see that we don't have any other Zoom participants, so I'll note that the Adderley Park Civic Organization recommends approval.
Okay, so now I'd like to turn back to the applicant and ask if you'd like to respond to the comments we've heard.
I do apologize, but I think for the rear elevation, we try to maintain the maximum that we can to maintain the same character for continuity as the front elevation. And I'm not sure what exactly the question is.
So I think there were sort of three comments. One was about the pavement in the front areaway, and do you need that much paving as opposed to grass, or is that consistent in the district? The second comment was about the roof line, and if you could do a more steeply pitched roof line and simplify it. And the third one was about I guess the brick porch extensions, and how those fit within the context. So if you'd like to comment.
Okay. For the pavement, yes, like for the rendering purposes, just it was mistaken. So it's all grass except for the walkway here to get to the stairs to get in. So for the concrete, we try to maximize the grass area, even for the driveway where we make in the center here the grass. So we try to maximize the grass area as much as we can and minimize the concrete. For the roof line, it's about the zoning, and okay, it's.
So is there a maximum height that you're trying to stay under? I got it.
Yeah. And the last one for brick, I didn't get it very well. Can you repeat it please for me? For the brick in the back?
Porches? Well, they suggested that the porches in the front would maybe be better suited at the back. And I don't know if porches are typical in this district, if that's
for the front porch?
Design. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have porches in this district, so maybe a little bit longer, we can make it smaller, but I think it's, yeah, let's see here.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, actually we can make it a little bit smaller. There's no problem for that.
Okay. Well, we'll see. That was just the public testimony, and so we were giving you a chance to respond. We do have some additional questions. Commissioner Goldblum?
Yeah, just talking about that kind of white colored concrete patio that you've got on the front and side of the two houses. What's your thinking on that? Is that like a deck to kind of hang out on? What's the
I'm sorry.
rectangular white things?
Are you talking about the axonometric views here?
Why don't you go to page 22?
22. Okay.
Yeah, you can see them pretty well there. There you go. Oop, go back.
Oops,
couple.
oops, I'm sorry.
Okay. Those
Yeah.
big kind of mats in the front and they run down the side. What are those?
No, like it's for the rendering issues, it's a little bit an issue. So we have only this part here for the stairs and all is grass. I'm sorry for that.
Aha.
Yes,
So-
yes.
So the grass, so the building sits in a grass field except for that little rectangle in the front that would be cement?
Yes,
Okay, so where you have the car shown towards the back, that's really a little paving strip and then grass.
yes. For the driveway, it's concrete driveway, except for the center. We try to maintain this grass to make like maximum that we can as grass area.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, I think we can move to our discussion. So we're going to now close the hearing and then we'll have a discussion and we'll explain the outcome of that discussion. So Commissioner Vice Chair Bland, would you make a motion to close the hearing? Thank you. Commissioner Chapin, would you second that motion?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the hearing is closed and we'll begin our discussion on these two new buildings on vacant lots in the Addisley Park Historic District. They are sort of designed in a neo-Tudor style that is, and the applicant showed other early 20th century revival styles that are found in this historic district. And they sit with a shared driveway with a grass strip in the driveway, two grass strips. And they seem to be brick and stucco and wood trim and some stone. So Commissioner Goldblum, would you like to start?
Sure. Okay, so this is a nice district, relatively new, that has a wide variety of architectural styles that I guess we would describe as 1920s to 1960s suburban. And the applicant is focusing their proposal on the Tudor revival style, which is quite prevalent in the district and is in and of itself a choice that is quite appropriate. I think that they have a little ways to go, though, and I would make some suggestions along that line. It is quite typical that the side and rear facades of Tudor revival houses are relatively simple. So I think that their general approach for treatment on the sides and rears is okay. I think their choice of materials is okay. I think, however, having taken a virtual stroll down the street, I don't see any case where there are two houses that look like they were made from like a kind of a row or a package. So I think that there needs to be more variety between the two houses. They shouldn't look like kind of matched twins. They should have a little more aesthetic variety. It seems that the block, if there's any consistency, it's that it's inconsistent. So I think that they should have a look at that, and there's certainly plenty of models to look at. And the other interesting thing about the 1920s Tudors is that they are remarkably thin in their detailing. These are not robust Cotswolds cottages or anything. The applique of the Tudor is relatively thin. Here, I think it's just a couple of inches too thin. I think that the variation in the front facade, if you look down the street, that's kind of where it's at. You don't have a pancake flat front facade with an applique, of a eave to differentiate between a relatively flat roofed house and, kind of gesturing towards a gable. I think that they can work with the staff, or maybe they should come back. It's a bit extreme to kind of vary the front facade, push the dormers back, look at the way that the block or the neighborhood deals with tutors. I would guess that most of them, like the ones that I see on the block, are pretty asymmetrical, and not only in their fenestration, but also in the kind of suggested massing. You know, there's a kind of a big gable to one side and then a cross gable to the other side, you know, which you can see on the left, bottom left, and on the top left, and on the top right. So yeah, I think there's a kind of a pattern there that they could look at that would give it a little more three-dimensionality, a little more variety to the facades so that they would kind of feel better on the street. I think they could look at color variations as well. Just kind of, you know, you don't want it to look like we kind of had a row here and then somehow the row got erased. I think that the front porches are unusual on the block as far as I can tell. I think one of them might be okay, but two of them might be too much because, again, it kind of gives you that pattern effect. And I think that the height, even though there are one or two houses that do have relatively high stoops, I think that the bulk of the houses seem to have a lawn that kind of rolls right up into the house with maybe one or two or three steps at most. So I think they should have a good look at that with staff. I think that the paving in the front, to the extent that it's a mistake, that's good. Because again, looking on the block, it's mostly lawns with a pathway, walkway towards the front. I think the idea of using a grass strip instead of a driveway is nice. They might consider that for down the middle as well, because it kind of has the effect now of, I mean, I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to do two grass strips with a shared middle. And I think that that shared middle winds up looking like a driveway. So I think that they might explore kind of either sticking with, you know, two pairs of grass strips with a green strip down the middle. I think the neighbors, you know, if you sell each house as a separate house, that would probably make the neighbors happy because they wouldn't have to fight over who shovels it. But I just think it would look better on the street as well. Although there does seem to be a case of kind of paired driveways down the road a little bit. I think they could work with staff to kind of sharpen that up before it comes back for a hearing. But in general, I think more diversity, more three-dimensionality, more a little closer look at the neighborhood.
Commissioner Ginsburg?
So in general, I totally agree with Commissioner Goldblum. I think the buildings are a little too boxy, which again, the three-dimensionality would help. That lowering the height of that first floor and the stoop and patio would also help. Also, on one of them has stone around the entrance. The other one may have a little, but is basically brick around the entrance. And it seems too little, and either it should all be brick or there should be more stone in that front of the one, which would be a way to start to differentiate more the two buildings. And so I think, and then just the Tudor details need to be worked on a bit, but in general, I think it just needs more development.
Vice Chair Bland?
I thought two commissioners have just spoken, have hit the nail on the head. I would go a little bit further maybe and suggest that the house on the left at this point still needs more work. For instance, the dormers need to be pushed back. They're way too close to make the whole thing so boxy. There's a wonderful house that's on the far left on the upper level that shows how a little bit, I mean, how three-dimensional it can be. But my biggest problem is the twinness of them, the fraternal twin kind of problem, which I think, again, the house on the left, I think is able to be fixed a bit, but I would recommend that they look at other examples, maybe not Tudor, for the house on the right, but which I think is much more troubled. in terms of a design currently. And there are plenty of other choices of American suburban vernacular to look at in this neighborhood to be inspired by. And I just think maybe that's a better approach from a streetscape point of view. But again, I think they will come back to us, and maybe you'll accept that idea or maybe you won't, but I'm just throwing it out as a way out.
Thank you, Commissioner Chapin.
Yeah, well, I support the comments of other commissioners. This is, this important district in Queens, and it's got a great history. And this particular district is, as Commissioner Goldblum said, characterized by individual houses and variation. They're not built as rows. And to put two very similar houses next to each other just looks very out of place in the district. They could both be Total Revival. I mean, that's not possible, certainly, but they ought to look quite a bit different in their presentation. And I'd also say that, and someone else commented, but they seem to be a little looming over their neighbors. And it's not that they're so large, certainly 2 stories is appropriate. First of all, it's appropriate to have new houses here. It's appropriate to have 2-story houses here, I should say. I think that if they didn't have the elevated basements, that you could bring them down to a height that, looks more reasonable and still accomplish most of your goals. I think that the style is sort of awkwardly presented, the details. And there are lot 54, lot 57, maybe 22. There are a lot of different examples that even they had in their presentation throughout the district, where they could just take a look at some other examples and work with those to try to get 2 houses that really look like they were built by themselves. That's because that's how the district looks. And I also agree that they should look closely at the lawn examples, this is also a district where the lawn is, a large part of it, and needs to look as green as possible. And the idea of using the strips is fine. There are other places where they're used, and there are other adjacent driveways, and I'm sure they can find some examples there. But I think this needs some more work. But I also think, it's totally appropriate to have two new houses here of approximately the size.
Thank you, Commissioner Lutfi.
I think my fellow commissioners have really covered so much. I'm just going to sort of point to a few of the remarks that I think are especially pertinent, and the applicant is going to need to go back, I believe, and work very closely with staff. But this whole idea of having a twin is, I really think, sort of critical to not do. You get the impression, and I'm not meaning this in an extremely pejorative way, but when you see something like this, it looks like a developer special. They come in, they have their little, I know the applicant has done a lot of work. So I just think they have to do more, because you sort of see these are 2 homes. They're made exactly the same way. It kind of takes away from what you're ultimately trying to accomplish here. You're not going to maximize the benefit. They're not going to maximize what can be gotten out of this, as well as the positive addition to the landscape here and the district. So I agree about the need to bring the entry down to grass level. I think the roof line is just, it almost looks like a mistake in a way when you you think about it relative to Tudor style. And I do, and I liked the thought of trying to vary it, but I don't think the applicant went far enough in terms of making them distinctive. And it's sort of one of the wonderful things about Tudor style homes is that when you wander through a neighborhood that's full of them, they are, each
Yeah.
one is different
Yes.
and they all have this very special character, and it's great to see, what those changes are. And please, when you do that and work with staff, especially if you're going to use stone, please, look very carefully at the kind of materiality you're going to use, because that also makes a very important impression, especially if it's on the facade or in a very prominent place in the building. So that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Master.
Yeah, I agree with the comments of a lot of the other commissioners, especially Commissioner Goldblum and Commissioner Chapin. I think that this has to be restudied and brought back to us.
And Commissioner Jefferson.
I accept the concept of two houses, the way they have it. I accept that concept. I think what they do need to do is and I accept the idea of the elements, but in each building, the elements are different. One is a form, one is pushed back, one is flatter. So they have variety within their concept. What they don't have is the top portion is symmetrical, the bottom portion is asymmetrical. What they don't have is that they could change the materiality of one house from the other. But the idea of two powerful buildings sitting next to each other and a lot, and working that facade out has appealed to me. And I think they should continue and work it out.
Okay. All right. So I think what we'll do is we'll take no action today. And what that means is we're not going to vote. We've had comments from our commissioners, which I hope you were able to listen to carefully and take some notes. There were really some very helpful suggestions about thinking about these two houses and how they sit within the streetscape. I think in particular, ensuring that they read as two independent houses with even if in the same style, but not necessarily the same style, but even in the same style, they need to have some variety. And I think there were also comments in particular about the roof line lowering the height of the elevated basement, and also just looking at the other Tudor revival styles, or what the style that you choose. Look at the other examples in the neighborhood to inform certain decisions about siting and roof lines and how details are applied. So the staff will be available to help you through this and interpret the comments and help you study the neighborhood to come back with some revisions, and we'll have you back as soon as you're ready. So that concludes our morning session. We are going to now break for lunch, and we will return at 1:15. And we'll ask every member of the public to voluntarily exit the Zoom at this time, so that should you wish to return, you don't experience technical difficulties that would arise if we have to remove you. Thank you.